Hi guys, today I was going to show you how I wrote the Kirby Wars song, which is just, I took the song Green Greens from Kirby and I translated it into a style that John Williams might have done for the Star Wars movies. So I'm just going to play it real quick for you so you can hear what it sounds like. And then it loops. That's all there is. It's just repeated twice over here. So for YouTube, when I put it up on YouTube, you could hear it loop, and then it ends. You can see here how it fades, the volumes down. But basically, what I started with was this instrument right here. And you can tell because that's the first instrument that I loaded in, was an instance of Contact. And what Contact does is it holds a instrument that I can write for. And in this case, this instrument was 3 trumpets and 6 French horns, staccatissimo way of playing those instruments that I just read off. And so if we're going to go into the keyboard, you can see this is what I have for the melody. And you can see how that is just the attack of the trumpets. The actual trumpets, the sustained trumpets, which are right here, are playing the same thing. Well, not exactly the same. You can see I've raised this an octave here and then lowered it back down here. This was just because I liked the way that it sounded up in this register whenever I added the staccatissimo trumpets in together, because if you just have this, it's fine, but it's not as impactful as having both the staccatissimo and the sustained trumpets playing like I just enabled right here like this. So I can show you what it would sound like if I lowered these so that they were exactly the same pattern as the staccatissimo trumpets. And that doesn't necessarily sound bad, but I just preferred that sound, so that's what I went with. Next we have the accompaniment to the melody. So this is where a lot of the Star Wars sort of it's a very Star Wars accompaniment style, where you have these stabbing, very rhythmic patterns in the accompaniment with the strings, and I have them doubled over with trombones. Trombones are there to give it some attack, and the strings are there to give it some body. And yeah, to give it some body. And what I mean by body is some low information and some mid information as far as sound frequency goes. So if I combine the two, just like I layered the staccatissimo trumpet and the sustained trumpet, I've layered the strings, which by the way are, okay, it's the full ensemble of strings. It's not a particular just violin or viola. It's the full ensemble. I've layered that with the trombones. So you can hear what that sounds like now. I'm going to play without trombones first. It makes a huge difference when you combine the two. So that's the accompaniment, which helps the melody. I'll play those all now. So it sounds pretty good right there to me, but there's still more to be done, or more that I added. You have the woodwinds, just playing the melody line. Then of course I have some timpani hits, which it was obvious that I was going to need those just from the style that I was writing for. John Williams used a lot of percussive attack in this Star Wars sort of style when he's doing, especially for the beginning intro, which is what I was kind of going for, the Star Wars beginning theme. You can see these are just playing the root notes of these chords, and it goes from down here, then it goes up into this interval, then it comes back down to the root, and then back down to the root for here. So just I'll let you hear what that sounds like with and without the timpani. So a lot more power in the attack of the sound. Next. So what that basically does is just fill out the mid-range with the melody. And so if I play the melody without this viola, and then I add it in, just adds a lot of body to it. Next, I have some octave stacked marimbas, which were basically just for some more Kirby vibes, for a lack of a better word. It's a very cute instrument to me. Well, especially in this sense, this style. It adds a sort of play-like Kirby aesthetic to the song, which that's what I was going for. It's a lot more fun instead of serious. So next and finally on this particular pattern, we have snare drum. And the way that they programmed this particular snare drum was I have some hits, and then there's a roll right here, and that roll will go on for as long as I want, like this. So use some rolls sparingly, add some interest instead of it just playing whenever the chords hits, the chords hit whenever the chords hit. And yeah, that's it for this section. I'm going to play it all. You already heard this in the beginning, but just now, so you have now that you have perspective on everything. Now this next part, this B part, I'm going to show you the transition first. So, I'm going to hop in here. First thing we have, which comes in way later, is just a single staccatissimo note for the trumpet, which would play around here. And that's because I wanted the staccatissimo trumpet to come back in right before it loops, because we have the staccatissimo trumpets in the first part of the song. So if you're going to have those segue cleanly between this part and this part, you probably want to have the instruments that are in this part show up at the tail end of this part. So that was my thinking for that. The first thing that I wrote for this was the melody. One of these. Okay, we'll start with this one. So I knew I wanted this part to be mostly carried by the strings as far as melody goes, so that is not the melody. This is what I'm looking for, I believe. So yeah, that was the melody. That's what I started with. And then we have the bass line, which I wrote next. So this is a cello section, and what it's basically doing is just running down the scale that I have. You can see this sort of the shape of running down each new count, each new, yeah. And then to double up on that, I had another string section, the full ensemble for this. Just play over that. Just gives it a lot more body. Next we have, so for this, the French horn, okay, so I was going to have the French horn play the melody, which you can see right here in Ghost Notes, but I figured that would be a little messy if I had the French horn and the strings playing that same line. So what I did instead was I sort of paraphrased, if you will, the melody. So instead of having that note there, I had it here, because if I had this note here and the majority of this space is being played by this note, and if I had this here, it would cause a lot of dissonance that I didn't want. So I just sort of stuck to the tonic or the dominant. Yeah, in this case, this would be the dominant. Dominant is halfway between the chord and, not the chord. Dominant is the halfway in between an octave of a key. So it's the most pleasing to the ear right under the tonic. And the tonic is just the key of the note that you're in. So the G would be the dominant in the case of C major. Those two sound very nice to each other. So that's why I opted to keep this here instead of here, because that is the dominant of this key that we are in. I do not know what key we're in. I just wrote, and I wrote whatever sounded good, and that's what keeps me chugging through the writing process. It's rare that I settle on a key and then write in that key. I just usually am writing whatever sounds good, and then I'll apply theory in ways that will help me write from there. So, and then the next, which is a huge part of this section, is the choir. And there's, as you can see, they're just playing chords. So I'll show you that now. So yeah, and actually right here, I think if I was to go back, I would change this chord. Let me, yeah, sure, let's go with that. So yeah, it's just playing chords, and then I had, like I showed you, the bass line. So as I said, I wrote the melody first, then I did the bass line, and then I did the chords. So in this particular case, that's how I did it. Sometimes I do the chords first, sometimes I do the melody first. It all depends on whatever is coming to me at that moment. And that's the particular order that this arrangement came to me. So, yeah. If we combine everything, the melody... Oh, I have the woodwinds playing the melody again. I'm still learning how to write for woodwinds. I'm not gonna hide that fact, so I just had them play the melody. Didn't really get too fancy with the woodwinds. So yeah, we got this. We got this. We got the bass line. And we have the choirs. And the French horn. And when you combine everything, you get this. At this part, you can hear the snare come back in. You can hear some of the trumpets come back in. You can hear the staccatissimo trumpets come back in. So everything comes full circle in this moment, and then packages it off to send it to the loop of the song right here. And that's the song. That was my process for the whole thing. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. If you want to see another video like this, because what I did was I went on Twitter about 5 hours before I wrote this. I put up a poll, and everyone voted for Kirby. So I did something with Kirby's Green Greens theme, which was the Star Wars, and then I posted it when I was finished with it. And I'm thinking of doing more of those because it's directly linked to what my fans on Twitter enjoy from me. So I think I'll do it again, and please let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this one and what the next video should be. So thank you, have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one.